This is Dave Arnold, your host of Cooking Issues, coming to you live from the heart of Manhattan, Rockefeller Center, New York City Newsstand Studios. Joined as usual with John right in front of me. How you doing, John?
Doing great, thanks.
Yeah. Got Joe Hazen rocking the panels.
Hey. Good to see everyone after 2 weeks.
Yeah. We do, last week was BCB. We could talk about that. We do not have Jackie Molecules. He isn't on an aerial plane, but apparently he's going to try to be on the Discord for those of you that are on the Discord. But in the upper left, we got Quinn. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good.
Good. And in the great state of Connecticut, small state, best state, we have Anastasia the Hammer Lopez. How you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah. Although, everyone says, small state, best state, but, it's not the smallest state. It's not even the second smallest state. So, why rep on the small, you know?
I mean, it is very small.
No, I guess. All right. So, what do you guys got going? What's going on? Not used to me starting so early on asking you guys what's going on. I mean, we had 2 weeks to figure it out. I'll start for you. Last week we weren't here because I had the Bar Convent Brooklyn, which is a goofy name for a thing, but I think they wanted to be a lot like the BCB, which is the initials of the Berlin one. So they call it Bar Convent Brooklyn, which is not how you would construct any English phrase ever at any time. It's like the goofiest thing ever. So on the Tuesday, which is why I couldn't be here, I was chilling with the House Alpens folks. House Alpens, for those of you that don't know, make one of my favorite things, Cap Course, which is, about 17% alcohol made with must instead of with fermented grapes. So it's real juicy and then fortified with grape spirit and quinine. It's delightful. And then they also make Burr, another one of my, or it's actually pronounced beer. But it's also unspellable, so it doesn't matter. It's in a red bottle with a cork on it. Also delicious, but that one is partially fermented grapes, partially must. Plus they make Dolan and Koki, which is, I met the guy that makes Koki, Roberto Bava. I'm like, yo, when are you gonna get us over? When are you gonna get us over to Turin there? When are we gonna go to Torino and hang? Never been to Piemonte. That's the way I talked to him. I didn't though. I mean, it wouldn't have mattered because he probably thinks all American accents are terrible, but you know what I mean. Anyway. So I was doing that. I was making carbonated Cap Course and signing books. And then the next day with Garrett Richard, who's been on the show several times?
Yeah.
Twice
Twice at least,
Yeah.
For his book, oh my God, the actual name of his book, Tropical Standard, went out of my head, and I was only thinking of Tropic Thunder, the movie. All I could think of is Tropic Thunder, the movie, and spoiler alert, seeing Coogan, Coogan, what's his name, the actor Coogan? Yeah, seeing his head on a bayonet, which is, to me, it doesn't sound funny, but when you watch it, it's super funny. I saw that once on an airplane, and I feel like the flight attendant almost had to land the plane. I was laughing so hard. You know what I mean? Anyways, yeah. So we were talking about maximizing citrus. So, yeah, cordials and whatnot. Talking about super juice and all of that stuff. Anyway, it was fun. It was good, I think. I don't know. Yeah. So that's what I did in terms of BCB. That's why I was not here last week. Now, have any of you thought of anything you've done over the past week? Because I can go on.
I mean, I've been doing a lot of sorbet work and other strawberry stuff. I did make the key acid adjusted custard thing.
Yeah, using the Quinn calculator.
Yes, and I used your technique from Campari Academy to try and measure the original acidity.
Oh, yeah. So for those of you that don't know, what Quinn's talking about here is, by the way, if you want to see Quinn's calculators, and Quinn, there's nothing Quinn loves more than, two things he loves: making a frozen dessert and making a calculator, but you have to join the Patreon for that. John, you want to tell them about this?
Go to patreon.com/cookingissues and check out a couple of different membership levels. You get great things at each level. At all of them, you get access to our Discord, to cool things Dave and team, and Quinn, I guess, post on the Patreon. Discounts with some people that we work with, like Edward Poe coming in next week from Edwards Aged Meats.
Which you should buy his hamburger. His hamburger is the best hamburger.
Yeah, they're very good.
His hamburger is the best hamburger.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Or like, for instance, we had 2 weeks ago, I guess, the Cold Water Kitchen documentary, the Chef Hill, the star, and the director. And, even though they don't have distribution yet, our Patreon people could watch it. You know what I mean?
True,
So, yeah. So anyway, join up. The technique Quinn is talking about measuring acidity is that most of us don't have a pH. Well, people have a pH meter, but they're garbage. Most of the pH meters that people have are trash. And here's the other thing people do. They buy a pH meter, like the $20 ones on Amazon, and they're like, I'm going to use it, and then I'm going to put it in my drawer for a year, and then I'm going to try to use it again. And then you're like, oh, and you don't even bother trying to recalibrate it. You're like, oh, my God, that pH seems totally wrong. It's because it is. Those things are trash. And then as soon as they dry out, the probe is toast. You know what I mean? And a lot of them don't have replaceable probes. If the probe's not kept wet with the right solution, it's garbage. Anyway, so my point being that, it's hard. And then even with that, if you're going to be measuring pH, acidity, you're not trying to measure pH, you have to do a titration on it. And doing a titration with a garbage pH meter, impossible. And then even you can use, and I did this, I went and bought some phenolphthalein, which is an indicator that changes, it goes from colorless to purple. And it's actually super fun. Using phenolphthalein is super fun because when you're doing a titration, so titration is when you try to figure out how much acid or base is in something by adding the opposite. So if you're trying to find how much acid, you add a strong base, like a lye, like concentrated lye. And you add it like a bunch at once and then drop by drop. And what happens is that there's a very sharp knee in the pH curve. So it'll be acidic, like a pretty shallow slope of the acidity reducing acidic, whammo, through 0, through pH 7, which is, neutral, and then rockets way up, and then basic, pretty shallow slope again. So like this S curve. And when you're really near that S, it looks kind of amazing because you'll drop a 1 drop of base in, and you'll get this like Flash Gordon 70s purple cloud just going and goes all through the liquid, and then you swirl it and it disappears like Ming the Merciless has vaporized you, and then you just keep doing it, and then all of a sudden 1 drop will make it stay purple. It's awesome. Here's the problem. Most of the things we need to test ain't clear, and it's really hard to see what's going on in a liquid when you can't see through it, right? So, the first time I was like, I'm going to do all of my tests with phenolphthalein, and then someone's like, how much acidity is in this red wine? I was like, wow. You know what I mean? So the technique I use instead is you get the most accurate scale you can, right? So again, I have 500 gram by the milligram, which is excessive, but most people can now get at least 200 grams by the milligram pretty cheaply. And you weigh, a small amount of the sample, and you have to weigh everything. You weigh the container, and you get excess baking soda. Excess. When I say excess, I mean too much, right? And then you weigh everything, and then you weigh the liquid that you're testing very accurately. Then you weigh the entire rig very accurately. Then you add the baking soda and you cover it and you stir it and you come back tomorrow. You swirl it around a couple times, come back tomorrow, reweigh the whole thing, and you can calculate from how much gas has left, how much CO2 has left, what the acidity was to within, 0.1% or so, depending on your equipment. But it's a pain in the butt. And you know what else, Quinn? It's you don't need to be that accurate. When you're taking something that's only 1% acidity, I did these calculations. They're in the upcoming section of the book. But when you actually do the calculations, when something is only 1% acidity, and you're going to add 5% to take it up to lemon or lime, you can be wildly inaccurate on a percentage basis. The difference between it being 1.2% acidity and 0.8% acidity, once you adjust it up, is within the variability of lemons or limes themselves. So
I know,
accuracy is not that important, but it's fun to do. Yeah?
Well, it wasn't fun for my dad. He was very confused.
What, about why you were doing all these weird steps?
Yes.
And you're like, no, don't throw away that stirring stick. Oh, Jesus, everything's ruined. Like that?
Well, no, the problem was I prepared succinic acid solution separately for actually making the, strawberry acid. And then I immediately did the acidity test, and he kept thinking the succinic solution was involved with the test.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
like, no, that's completely separate.
Different
that's
problems.
good.
Yeah, different problems. Oh, speaking of succinic, I noticed that Monitor's Pantry is out of stock on the succinic. I'll tell you folks why, even though I probably shouldn't. Even though I'm probably contractually obliged not to tell you, I will tell you anyway. Their original supplier stopped carrying it, and they got it. So what I'm trying to say, it's my fault. And so they gave me a sample, and I have tested it at the new bar, such as it is. And it seems fine, but I want to run a couple of more tests at my house with old versus new before I'm like, yes. I mean, it tastes awful, but like succinic acid should. But I haven't had a chance to do a side by side with my succinic acid versus the new one to see whether anyone can tell the difference. Although, I mean, it's good enough. I should just tell them to sell it, right? Should I just tell them to sell it again? Probably. I mean, if it's even close and the alternative is nothing, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also, again, talking about inaccuracies, given that you're adding 0.5 mils of an 8% solution into the juice, like...
What about it?
I'm saying if the flavor is slightly different, will you notice it at those levels?
Well, I mean, the whole point is that you notice it at those levels, otherwise I wouldn't add it, right?
I know, but I'm saying the difference between the difference between the two versions of succinic acid.
Yeah, I mean, its taste threshold is much lower because you're not using it for acidity, right? So it's not like, Ariel's freaking thing where it was, one drop or 10 drops in an Olympic-sized swimming pool of geosmin would have been a better ratio than what I use, where my mouth tasted like dirt for a day and a half. But speaking of, Nastasia and I saw Ariel last week. We went to go see Captain Greasy. Nick Coleman, who is playing bass for Action Bronson, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, at the Poisson Rouge. And here's what he said. See what you guys think, Patreon folks. Here's what he said. He said he was a little discombobulated after the show, right? Because he played a long show and he was it's loud. Oh, is he there? Is he with you? Or are you just playing random? Oh, Joe Hazen's got random Bansuri in the background. I love it.
David Carradine.
From what? From
Kung Fu.
Kung Fu? Yeah. Is he the one that's dead? Is he the dead Carradine? Oh. Anyway, so Nick has some southern hemisphere oils that are going to come in fresh. I think he said in July, right, Nastasia?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's what we want to do. And I think he agreed, but, post-concert, right? But I think he agreed. We went to this place that Nastasia wanted me to use the bathroom, by the way, because there's a secret...
No.
I'm not going to say what it is, but there's a secret place where they don't have a bathroom, but they send you through a different performance space to use the bathroom, and you get to see the performance. Not only do you get to see the performance, but you have to walk in front of the audience and potentially, run into some problems. But, right. So, Stas, that's safe, right? I didn't say what it was. Anyway, so what I want to do is I want to get Nick, as soon as those oil samples come in, to have the Patreon folks be able to buy it from him, and then he comes on and talks about that oil, like a cooking issues, like little sample of like fresh. Because I was like, get me a real throat ripper. I want some throat rippers. You know what I mean? Do you guys like throat ripping oil, or you like mellow oil?
Yeah, I like both.
Yeah, both. Probably more on the mellow side.
Really?
Hello for me.
Really? Like for bread? Like if you're just going to eat that sucker on bread, you want mellow? Huh. It really does take different strokes, I guess, to go the world. I want to feel like someone's hitting me in the head. You know what I mean? I want my throat ripped out. But that's also, I guess, why I like seltzer. I like punishingly carbonated seltzer.
Like when licking the blade of a lawnmower, kind of like throat ripping.
Ooh, I've never tried that because we had so much poison ivy, and I ran over so many bees and snakes and stuff that I never licked the blade of my lawnmower. But someday I'm going to try that. Yeah.
It's the terroir.
Yeah. Have you, if I ever have a lawn again, I'm going to get one of them robot lawnmowers. You seen these?
Yeah, I have.
Sick. It's like a Roomba for
They're
your
called
lawn.
like gardeners.
Yeah, but what's nuts about it is it like it now your lawn gets like golf course, because it's like micro mode every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the blade goes one way, the other way. I'm just curious. Have you seen the lawn? There's a thing on Instagram about looking at the field for Real Madrid soccer field. It's pretty epic in what exactly they do. There's 2 or 3 fields that live on top of each other, and there's robots that bring it up and down based on the season and the fresh seedings they do in the field.
Whoa. It's like a New York City car park where it's like me.
Exactly.
That is messed up.
It's amazing.
That is some crazy business.
That's what money can buy.
Oh man, turns out Cyndi Lauper was right. Money changes everything.
She was here last week.
What?
Yep.
What?
Yep.
Oh my
Yep.
God.
Pretty awesome.
Oh, was she cool? I bet she was cool.
Super cool. I met her like maybe a year ago. She came by the studio. She walked by the studio and she saw me in the studio by myself and she put her finger out, looked at me like, what is going on? And then she walked away. And then all of a sudden last week she was here.
Oh my God.
And we talked about that moment that she saw me. It was
Oh, it's so sick. Oh, Cyndi Lauper. But now you've totally erased my head. What were we talking about?
Well, originally, we were talking about the acid test.
Yeah, but
But that
then,
was like
then we moved on
5
to
layers
the Coleman,
deep.
right? Yeah, okay. Okay, back to that. So you got more? You got more, Quinn? What do you got?
I mean, I've been doing some interesting sorbets. I think there's a certain balance of clarified juice and like a regular fruit puree that is good for strawberries. So I'm sort of, finding that balance.
Well, and do you have anything to report? Or is this just a progress report?
Okay, I need to do one more iteration. I think I'm going to just split the difference into equal amounts, juice and puree. But I mean, you saw the color of my last one, right? That was red.
Yeah. You know what's red? The drink I'm gonna have at the bar is some red. Oh my God! I need someone else to cost it because I do not want to know what that thing costs. Oh, I mean that's the problem about making something for yourself versus like trying to put it on the menu. You're like, oh, that's so good. The cost. You know what I mean?
like how red? Like red velvet red?
Oh, like red.
Like sanguine blood.
Considering that it's orgeat based, so like you would think it wouldn't be that red. You'd think it would get kind of blonded out. Like it's red because it's a raspberry orgeat and raspberry juice. So raspberry on raspberry.
Raspberry orgeat. So
Yeah.
like what? Like, is there still another nut in there or no?
Yeah, almonds.
Okay, so it's almond and raspberry juice, basically.
Well,
And
kind
sugar.
of. I cheated. A lot of sugar. Anyway, well, it comes. I want it to be roughly 50 bricks when it's done, like everything else. Oh, speaking of which, I thought I was going to write it down, and I thought I had written it down. But one of the things I mentioned on the, Quinn can put it in one of his calculators. So for those of you that are working with juices, right? One of the great things about clarified juices, another reason to get yourself a Spinzall, by the way, bing, bing. One of the great things about clarified juices is that you can reduce them tremendously without them burning, right? So, it's very, very hard to reduce an unclarified juice, especially one that's pulpy or a puree, down without, it tasting nasty, to be honest, right? So, unsweetened cranberry juice is obviously a miracle, right? It's amazing because, now they didn't add a bunch of sugar and water. It's just cranberry juice. Cranberry juice is highly acidic, like on the order of 2% acidity, right? So more than twice what the average, fruit thing is. It could be higher, 2 points. Like I have it somewhere. So what I did was I took the unsweetened cranberry juice, just the Trader Joe's, nonsense, and I boiled it down. And I'm going to want to say that I took 1,000 mils down to like 250 or something like that. Like boiled it way down, and then I did all the calculations, because it's me, and added sugar to it and got a 50 bricks cranberry cordial. right? That's just concentrated cranberry. So it's 50 Brix and 6% acid with no acid added. And it's got that cranberry acidity to it. You know what I mean? But because cranberry is already a flavor that we're only really consuming cooked 99.9% of the time, and it doesn't scorch, so it doesn't taste overcooked. So it's a way to add a huge amount of cranberry in a little bit of space. And it's shelf stable. And it pours nicely. So, yeah. I'll get you guys the, what's it called? I'll get you guys the numbers. Basically, you have to, what you have to do is you have to calculate what volume of that cranberry juice will, once reduced, will make 6% acid, right? Then you have to calculate how much sugar is already in that volume, right? Then you figure out how much the volume will increase based on the sugar you add, and then reduce it that much more so that when you add the sugar, the volume gets back. Does that make sense? Ish,
yeah.
Ish. All right. Also, this week, my 29th wedding anniversary. Yeah. Yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, 29 years. Hoping to get one more at least. You know what I mean?
Don't know how Jen does it. Yeah, no, it's great.
Nobody seems to know how Jen does it. So, so what did I make? I made, so on our honeymoon, I've said this before on the show, so I won't go too far into it, but on our honeymoon, we went to Rome and then north, right? And so, we were looking in the guidebooks at the time, and they're like, what should you get when you go to Rome? And it wasn't carciofi season when we went. It's right now. We went right now, obviously, because it's our wedding anniversary. We were in Rome right now. Saltimbocca alla Romana, right, which is the veal cutlet with the sage and the prosciutto. And in 1995, this was like, this was the height of gastronomy. You know what I'm saying? And it was breaking the bank, right? So I was glad when we left Rome and we weren't spending as much money. But we don't make it with. We didn't have the money when I got home to make it with veal, so we would always make it with chicken. Right, so for 29 years I've been making chicken saltimbocca, or chicken bocca as we call it. So I did that yesterday with the meat glue. So I did. So I used to hate sticking the toothpicks in through the prosciutto to keep it on. So you put the sage down, then the prosciutto. That's the way I do it, to keep the sage on. But I'd always hate flipping it, because when you flip it, the prosciutto moves around unless it's really set onto it. So I just salt, sugar, pound the bejesus out of it. I do the envelope cut. You know the envelope cut? Or the envelope, the trifold paper cut, where you put the chicken breast down. It's shaped like a triangle. You take a cut in on the fattest side, whoop, fold it over. Take a cut on the other side, open it up like you're folding a letter. For those of you that have ever actually mailed a letter, you young freak shows. And then you put plastic wrap over it. Well, then you salt and salt, pepper, a little bit of sugar on both sides. Plastic wrap, real flat. Sage. Prosciutto, meat glue, sage, prosciutto. Put it in a Ziploc, suck the air out without inhaling. You shouldn't inhale meat glue. Did I mention this? Like, meat glue is pretty safe, but don't go inhaling it, because you don't want to glue together your lungs. You know what I mean? Like, you only got the one set of lungs. You don't want to glue together your alveoli. Don't huff the meat glue. Anyway, so, but they were too big to fit. After I pounded them, they were too big to fit in my vacuum machine. That's how nice they were. Yeah, and then instead of using the classic stuff to deglaze, I deglazed with Harvey's Bristol Cream, the 70s cake juice of dreams, and it was good. Yeah, mashed potatoes. Yeah. Anyway, so now that I've gone all this stuff, Quinn, what do you have besides sorbet? Anything besides sorbet? Any savories?
I did sorbet. I did the custard. Oh yeah, we did some nice spot prawns. There, it's the end of the season here, so we did a crudo, we did a stir fry with some tomato. Yeah, that was pretty good.
So I know Quinn does not listen to the 3-6 Mafia. However, yes, but one of my favorite all-time songs is Sipping on Syrup, right? And one of the greatest lines in all of hip-hop is, I keep the dope fiends higher than the Goodyear blimp. I eat so many shrimp, I got iodine poisoning, right? So it's a fantastic line, like shrimp and blimp as a rhyme, iodine poisoning. It doesn't really get much better than that. I mean, I can hear it in my head right now because it's so good. And so, like, everyone I, work with knows that, if they're the kind of person that we can, like, sing stupid, like, rap lyrics to, because Nastasia won't tolerate that. So I don't do it with Nastasia, right? But, like, at the bar with my cousins, the problem is that shrimp doesn't actually have that much iodine. So if you look up on the internet, people have calculated how much shrimp you would need to eat to get iodine poisoning. And it's a preposterous amount, something like 45 pounds of shrimp to get, like, legitimately iodine poisoned, right? Now, this got me thinking. Back to, remember when the Secret Life of Groceries guy was on? And he brought up something that, like, really blew my mind, where he was like, remember how shrimp used to be a luxury and it's not anymore? I was like, you know what I mean? Like I was like, that just, like, I think about, every once in a while, I think about, and I'm like, shrimp, holy crap. You know what I mean? Anyway, so, like, here's the thing, though. All the shrimp that we get now, the reason why shrimp, even though it did drive Red Lobster out of business, right? Even cheap shrimp, Red Lobster could not sustain the cheap shrimp onslaught. But the shrimp we get now is not the same shrimp we used to eat in the 70s, right? It's all farm raised in fresh water, right? So I think that the 3-6 Mafia is using Gulf brown shrimp, and Gulf brown shrimp, wild caught Gulf brown shrimp, right? That is very much higher in iodine than the farm shrimp that we get. So what I didn't realize is not only was the 3-6 Mafia making fun of my funny Geneva watch with the Ferrari kit. Not only was I embarrassing on that, but I was embarrassing them with my farm shrimp. I need to get that Gulf Brown to get the sweet iodine. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, Quinn. Yeah. Just, I don't even know how I got on that. Did you mention shrimp? Probably. Prawns, spot prawns. Yeah.
So is it all the all you can eat shrimp that drove Red Lobster out of business?
That's the theory, but I mean, it's probably it's one of those things like.
Well, they have like parts of shrimp. It's not like.
Look, here's the thing, right? Like, you have a business. What happened really is that the Red Lobster got marauded by an iBank hedge fund group that bought it, extracted a crap ton of profits when the profits were high, and, like, stripped it of its value and left it dying and in the dust. That's really what happened. However, they're probably looking for an excuse when things flag, and so they're like, oh, we took a $20 million hit on shrimp, so we're gonna close all of our stores. Okay, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I heard anyway. I'm not an expert in Red Lobster analia, other than one thing I do know about Red Lobster: they know how to cook the hell out of a piece of fish. They know how to take a piece of fish and just beat the snot out of it, cook it so hard, but then they put so much butter on it that somehow you're like, okay. Any of you guys Red Lobster folks growing up?
Long time ago, mid-90s.
That was way too.
Yeah, but that wasn't like a special occasion. Red Lobster was a special occasion place for us, though.
Still no.
No, not really. But says the person who used to get super fresh catch stuff from the fish place that no one in your family can name, but you can all drive to right on the water.
Well, that's California. Why would you go to the prices there compared to what the prices are at that fish place?
Yeah, but why do people come into New York City and go to Olive Garden instead of Temperance?
They're stupid.
All right.
Said.
Yeah. I had something more on Red Lobster closing. Maybe it'll come to me. Probably it won't.
It's okay. Couldn't have been that important.
Well, that's what my mom used. My mom used to say that if it was important, it won't come back to you. Yeah, the opposite of what most people. She's like, you're going to forget the important stuff. You know what I mean? Anyway, all right. Well, maybe it'll come back to me. I feel it was something that our crew would want to know, though. Oh well, wasn't about shrimp, and it wasn't technically about Red Lobster. Was it about people closing down? I don't know. Who knows? Hey, Doc Molotov writes in, I recently inherited about 500 kilograms. I want you guys to mentally hear these words. 500 kilograms. That is a lot. That is over half of a U.S. ton and exactly half of a metric ton. That is a lot. of whole wheat from my grandma's food storage. So in other words, Doc Molotov has a lot of wheat to go through. Know what I mean? Okay. For context, she was born in 1930 and is Mormon. So the Mormon thing, just to let you know that she has a lot of stuff in her basement in case the world ends. Do you think people who prep for the world ending get mad when it doesn't and they're on their deathbed? Or were they like, I was prepared?
I kind of hope they get a
Well, I
little
guess they
bad.
leave it to their children, right? Then their children will be prepared.
No, but like if you're a good Mormon, your kids also have that store of stuff in the basement. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm just
Well, I
wondering.
don't think Doc Molotov had a similar stockpile of wheat before he inherited it.
Well, I'm not saying that his grandma was proud of him or her. You know what I mean? Them. Anyway, my point is, yeah, I think I would be a little disappointed. It's like someone who spends their entire life learning how to do something and then never get to do it. You know what I mean? It's gotta be disappointing. Oh, the world didn't end. Anyway, the wheat was stored in fresh metal. The wheat was stored in metal trash cans, and dry ice was placed in the bottom. I presume to displace oxygen and kill pests. That would work. You know, the problem is you need to kill everything. Once you kill everything in wheat storage, kill it all. Then it as long as nothing can re-enter, nothing will grow. Right. So displacing oxygen will also prevent rancidity in situations where things can go rancid, but wheat can be stored, not that way, and it'd be fine as long as you can prevent any sort of weevil infiltration. Now, the wheat is older than I am. The dates I can see on the bags are 1976. Some of it is hard red and some of it's soft white. Two of my favorite varieties. I love soft white. So, although I have been using Sonoran recently. Anyway, both grown in Utah. My questions are, in whole wheat, what can go bad? I've eaten some, the hard red, as cracked wheat porridge. Man, it tastes like wheat and didn't kill me. But are the nutrients still there? Yes, right? Yes.
I think so.
I don't know if it's I'm sure some stuff is broken down, but it's not like you're looking to get vitamin C or something that's like, very fugitive out of it. I mean, it's still got the brand. It's still going to run through you. You know what I mean? It's still going to keep that motor running. For making bread, let's consider the tartine country loaf. What might I need to augment to make it work well? Well, more on that in a second. And I'd be interested in a recommendation for a grain mill as well. I have a Bosch universal mixer. Good mixer, by the way. I enjoy the Bosch. I'm now an anchor or something, man, but I do enjoy the Bosch. Someone else came up to me the other day and was like, I'm done with KitchenAid. I'm like, yeah. KitchenAid could come back if they cared about us again. If they made the bowl fit, if they made the paddle get anywhere near the bowl.
Yeah.
If it wasn't just that it was expected that you would have to jam the bowl up into the mixer to make it work, I'd be like, you care about me again. It's not just the fact that they make one that can mix a Volkswagen now. They have these huge ones that are like halfway to a Hobart. Like, that wasn't the problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, get better, KitchenAid. Sons of guns.
Do better. Yeah.
Do better. Seriously though.
Yeah.
They're
I
like,
can't even whip 2 egg whites in mine, and it infuriates me.
yeah, and the bigger they are, the worse they are
Yep.
at doing like a couple of small things. It's preposterous, and it's like, here's what I hate. They're like, everyone says this, even otherwise very smart people. Well, you can adjust the height of the bowl. Not enough. Don't you think of anyone I would have adjusted the bowl height as high as it can go? Of anyone Mr. Void the Warranty. Don't you think I would fix it if I could? And so then everyone's like, well, you can get washers at the hardware store and stick them over the pins. Yeah, then the bowl flies off. Like, there is not a good solution to this other than do better. Anyway.
Let's get back to this 500 kilograms of ergot fungus.
Oh, that's good. Does anyone take that on purpose? So it's not a good loony.
I don't think it's a good high. No.
No. All right. I'd be interested in a recommendation for a grain mill. I have the Bosch. Is the mill attachment worth it, or is it best to get a standalone unit? I don't know. There are people that make mill units, like Quinn has the mock mill for the KitchenAid, and I think that they also make one that will attach to the Bosch.
They have standalones as well.
What do you mean? Who does?
Milk mill.
Yeah, I know, but the one you have is the one that goes on the KitchenAid. Like the Como and the Mock Mill are all made by a guy named Mock, and they're all the same exact design, basically. So either of them will work equivalently well. I would get the bigger, to 200, but like I have the Como Mio, and it's great. Also, if you want to stay Mormon, look up on eBay Mormon Mill, and you can get what used to be called a Mormon Mill, and mine was from Arizona, and other than being very loud, it's pretty damn good. So like the Mormon Mills can be had quite cheaply, and then you're keeping it all in the zone, but you're going to need a sifter for it. Bosch is a good unit, but I would get a standalone, because if my memory serves me, the Bosch needs to be turned sideways to get to do this. And who wants to turn their crap sideways? Oh, actually, no. They have that takeoff unit on the top on the Bosch. Anyway, just get a standalone unit. It's going to be like $5 more, and if you're actually going to make bread, you're going to want the standalone unit. Now for the bad news. In no less a journal than Science, the premier, right? Science, along with Nature, one of the premier magazines for scientific research in the world. Science, in the 25th of June in the year 1926. So before the crash in the salad days, there's an article, Milling and Baking Qualities of Old Wheat. A farmer living near Junction City, Kansas, presented in August 1925 to the Kansas State Agricultural College a sample of wheat, which he knew to be at least 25 years old. The wheat was dark red and the kernels were plumped, well preserved, and there was no evidence of weevil. So equally well stored with your grandma's. The wheat, the test weight as received was 55.8, and I don't really remember what, but basically they're saying the test weights, all that stuff was relatively similar to fresh, right? The test weight as received was 55.8, and after passing the cleaning and separator, it was 56.3. A germination test made in the seed testing laboratory showed no signs of life, so it was dead. So something clearly has changed, right? A milling test gave a normal amount of flour, but the ash content was higher. So again, something has happened. Ash meaning the stuff other than endosperm and the stuff that they normally count for. The amount of moisture and protein in both the wheat and the flour compared well with the average generally obtained from normal Kansas hard wheat. But the baking test produced a loaf of small volume, heavy texture, and poor color. The bread was very similar to that made from wheat which has been injured by heating in the stack or bin, or when germination has proceeded too far. The gluten wash from the flour was also similar to that obtained when wheat has been so injured or damaged, as mentioned. Dr. C.O. Swanson, Department of Milling Industry, Kansas State Agricultural College. So, here's what I would do. I'm not saying to throw out your 500 kilograms of wheat, but when you get a mill, and I highly recommend you do, get some fresh wheat. You know what I mean? And then run some tests with the fresh wheat. I would especially try to sift out some more of the bran on this, assuming that part of that's like what's going to give you a lot heavier texture. And then just run some side-by-sides. And then, mix a little in. Because here's what doesn't need good gluten. Pancakes, right? And I don't know, it's a lot of pancakes, right? So on average, even when Dax was living at home instead of, selling vapes in Alaska like he is this summer, I would really only use about 500 grams of flour for pancakes a week, right? 2 rounds of pancakes, 250 grams a round, 500 grams. So you're looking at 1,000 weeks to get rid of your 500 kilograms. But also, especially a soft or mixture might be good in biscuits. So something that you can use it for that isn't going to need the gluten structure, and test those side by side. But you're going to have to make a lot, or like maybe integrale, like biscuits, something that doesn't need the gluten to work, and see. But it sounds like it's going to be safe and fine, just not the best. Was that an okay answer? Did I cover some of that?
Yeah.
All right. Andrew H. I'm trying to use some over-roasted beans I have making Kopi Tarek, which is I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's that, the coffee with the, I think, sweetened condensed milk, I think they roast it with sugar, almost like a torrefaction and fat, the beans, but they're like hard roasted, and they go from on high and they get the foamy Megillah. You know what I'm talking about? Back and forth, back and forth. I only have an AeroPress, so I make normal coffee, over-extract it a bit to give it an edge, and add sweetened condensed milk, and I want to get a stable froth on it, so I pour it from cup to cup, which is super difficult. The issue is the froth quickly dissipates within seconds. I need some way to increase the stability of the froth, and just adding more milk doesn't seem to do the trick. Well, Andrew, there's always xanthan. You know what I'm saying? A little bit of xanthan. A lot of people now... Mike Capoferi at Thunderbolt, he uses, I think it's called Magic Foam from Monitor's Pantry. And what that is, it's a mixture of maltodextrin, which is a bulking agent that, also it's a separating agent. So you're not adding enough maltodextrin in this case to actually use it as a bulking agent. But it can be used. I used to use maltodextrin when I was whipping fruit purees that didn't have high solids. I would dope it with a crap ton of maltodextrin so that there would be enough solids in it for viscosity to get buildup off of it when I'm making the foam. But you're not going to add enough of that. It's basically just to keep it separated so that it hydrates instantly. Xanthan and Methocel F50. Now, Methocel F50 is going to have a little bit of a problem hydrating in milk, so I would prehydrate, if you're going to use it, I would prehydrate it in water, and then, a little bit, and then make like a syrup with it and add that, to put in. But you could use that or just straight xanthan, and that will stabilize it such that the bubbles that do form don't die so quickly. And Quinn, you like this kind of problem. Do you have any suggestions for that one?
Yeah, I was going to suggest similar thing, make prehydrated F50. I do have another F50-based semi-Frado in the works, so we'll see if that works.
Yeah, by the way, when you add a foaming agent, this is something I realized I hadn't talked a lot about before, but in frozen confections, so I was rereading, to me, it's always Arbuckle to me. But the original ice cream book by Arbuckle, because how would you change the name? Arbuckle is so sick. It's such a good name, Arbuckle. You know what I mean? And it was the ice cream book because it was the only one available for a billion years. Anyway, Goff. We should have Goff. I don't know if he's a nice guy or a dingus, but I've read his work from the University of, how do you pronounce Guelph? You think Guelph? Guelph?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Guelph, yeah.
Guelph. I've been reading his crap for 2 decades now, and maybe it'd be fun to have him on. I mean, I don't know. Again, so his name is now on the ice cream book. Him and some other person whose name I forget. So one thing that, I was thinking about a lot is that everybody knows in ice cream that the more air you whip into the ice cream, the slower it melts because air is an insulator, right? So it prevents ice cream from melting. So a lower quality, usually a lot of lower quality ice creams are overstabilized. It's considered a fault, by the way, for something to not melt in general, because when people scoop some ice cream and then they walk away for 2 hours and come back, they think it's unnatural if it hasn't fully collapsed, right? So meltdown, you don't want it too high, but you also don't want it too low. So they do all these tests where they make these little hockey pucks of ice cream, put them on a screen with a weight, a balance underneath, and they test how long it takes to minute by minute, how much melts down through the screen, and these are the meltability tests. And the more air you whip into something, the better insulated it is, and so the longer it takes for it to melt. And so what I was thinking is that a lot of people now not only add xanthan to their frozen drinks, but also a little bit of a foaming agent. And when you do that, you're slowing the meltdown of your frozen drinks as well. So they're getting churned and air is going into them, and you're going to slow down that. And also, you're going to deaden the cold feeling on your tongue. So the higher alcohol or sugar you go in a frozen drink, the colder it needs to be to draw at the same texture, right? So let's say you're freezing 50% of the liquid. That point, that 50% point, which is what the machine's going to get to, can be 6 degrees below 0 Celsius. If it's basically sugar, mostly sugar, it can be minus 14, right? Which is cold. Right. So, or even lower if it's even higher alcohol. So a little bit of air whipped in will, 1, make it melt slower, and 2, will make it not as painful on your mouth. Anyway, there you have it. Anyway, you think I answered Andrew's question?
Yeah,
All
I
right.
think so.
How do you think you pronounce K. Jadlin, the user who...
I would do just like that.
Really? Okay. A friend of mine who bought this, and I'll tell you guys what this is in a minute. This on a whim at an antique store has been wondering whether it's safe to drink. So the picture I see is of Burroughs Alcoholic Cloves Cordial. Now, for those of you that can't see, it's got the classic beef eater picture. Now, beef eater is someone who's supposed to eat the sovereign's food ahead of time. In case you're going to poison the sovereign, you kill the beef eater first. Apparently, they haven't figured out that some poisons take a while to act, and that I could kill the beef eater and you. You know what I mean? It seems like weak. I mean, like if I'm going to kill you with something, I'm going to get around the beef eater. I mean, I know you have one. So Burroughs was the name of the person who started kind of Beefeater Gin, and they used to have a bunch of other products beside. By the way, do you know that Beefeater Gin got ruined recently? They lowered the proof.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because they hate us and I don't know. Like Beefeater was a highly respected gin. Like I've used it a bunch of times. Everyone loves that picture on the front of the guy who's willing to die for the sovereign. And I don't know, man. They're just like, we're going to lower the proof. The hell is that?
Yeah, sounds like a mistake.
It's trash can. It's trash can move.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's made by that same company. It turns out that this drink, the alcoholic cloves cordial, is both less alcoholic and probably a lot older than I thought when I bought it. As near as we can tell from examining the maker's mark on the bottle, there's a little bit of contradictory here. The bottle cannot have been made later than 1905. Maybe you mean earlier than 1905 because you then say it's got to be... Anyway, this would be weird and surprising, but it seems to be accurate according to everything we can figure out about it. Even without that, the ABV labeling is not one that would have been legal after 1989. So the absolute newest it could be is 35 years old, and we think that's implausible. 1960s or earlier seems much more likely. That makes sense, right? So I guess it's obvious. Is it safe or unsafe? And if neither of those, what test should you run to put it into one of those categories? It's safe. Drink it. You know what I mean? Like, unless you're trying to recreate it, in which case you need to send it for GC mass spec somewhere, call Ariel or whatever, or, send a sample and I'll forward it. Although she doesn't have a current one running, I don't think. Yeah, it's safe. People drink this kind of stuff all the time. I don't know how clovey it is, right? So, the active principle of clove is eugenol, and I'm pretty sure that you will not want to have enough eugenol to kill you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel it's self-limiting, right? Because, like, when someone, like, wickedly cloves something, you're like, oh, yeah. You know what I mean? That's like going back to House Alpens, they make allspice dram, St. Elizabeth allspice dram, and if you add too much of that allspice dram, I'm like, oh, yeah. And that's like the eugenol and other stuff in it, so it's real pungent. And, who the hell knows? If you don't like it, you could probably use it to knock out some fish because it's clove oil, the eugenol, the isoeugenol is the same stuff that we used to use to anesthetize fish before we performed ikejime, and lobsters. Lobsters taste noticeably better when you clove oil them before you kill them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's a pain in the butt. I don't do it anymore. I do knife them now. You knife your lobsters?
Yeah.
Do you save the juice? How do you do lobsters now?
I don't save the juice, but that's not a bad idea. I don't know, just like a knife right down, like back behind the eyes, I guess.
You have a combi?
Just pull. Yeah. Well, I don't cook lobster at the restaurant, but that would be a way to do it. Yeah.
That way you're not like boiling out all the stuff. You could save the stuff that comes out of them. Because the problem with them is that there's a lot of flavor in the hemolymph or whatever you call it, like the bodily fluids of the animal, and when you brain spike it, you lose a lot of that. So, we used to do stupid stuff at the FCI. Like, I think one time, I don't know if you remember this, Nastasia, one time we glued the lobster back together before we cooked it. We brain spiked it, like rattled everything around there in the front, and then like covered it with like sugru or something like that, and then cooked it. We did all kinds of dumb experiments. Like, we would put them in bags. We would kill them and put them in bags and steam them so that you wouldn't lose the juice. All kind of dumb.
Yeah.
All manner of stupid. Because anyway, all manner of dumb. Henbats. Dave mentioned how he likes to have salad on his pizza. I often do this and just mix the greens with some garlic, balsamic, and olive oil. Was curious for my go-to pizza salad topping. Anything, man. Anything. I put anything on that. Like, I put... although I do like a light vinaigrette, because the problem is if a salad has too much garbage in it, then it starts interfering with the flavors of the pizza. You know what I mean? So, like, what's the current classic? 4-to-1 oil to vinegar?
Yeah.
5-to-1, 4-to-1?
Like that, yeah.
More oil, obviously. And salt, pepper, It's nice. Because are you going to eat the salad separate from the pizza? If you're going to eat the salad separate from the pizza, then you need to make the salad delicious on its own. As a topping, as a pizza topping, you want it to be more neutral, because it's got to go with the pizza. Although, what doesn't hurt a salad or a pizza is Parmigiano.
Or does balsamic aged vinegar.
Yeah. I mean, well, you can over vinegar and then it's going to affect the pizza. You know what I'm saying? That's why you got to like...
You don't need a lot with that stuff.
Yeah, right. You don't want it to be dry, right? So when Nastasi and I used to do it at Roberta's, we would pour like half of the oil they had on the table on the greens and like a bunch of the salt. That was our standard MO, right, Stas?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Some prosciutto in it doesn't hurt either.
Prosciutto doesn't hurt much. So my mom
I'm very hungry now.
My mom out of nowhere on Father's Day, she's like, I hope you're having bacon. Bacon makes everything delicious. I'm like, Ma, what is this, 10 years ago? On the bacon train? I'm like, yes, I did have bacon, but weird thing to text me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway. Everyone knows I like bacon. Shift Drink writes in, I picked a bunch of sour cherries that I'm planning on making into cocktail cherries. In an early episode, you mentioned briefly soaking in calcium chloride. Ball makes a product called Pickle Crisp. That's a good word, right? Pickle Crisp? A Pickle Crisp. Called Pickle Crisp, which appears to be just calcium chloride, according to the ingredient list, probably with some like anti-caking agents or some other trash. The instructions are to add to pickling mixture instead of a brief soak. Would you still recommend a soak? And are there taste quality issues with calcium chloride being in the product long term? Well, look, here's what you need to do, Shift Drink. Go buy you some tomatoes in a can with calcium chloride and tomatoes in a can without calcium chloride. The ones without calcium chloride, unless they add a different form of calcium like calcium lactate or calcium lactate gluconate, will be noticeably mushier, but if you can taste the bitter notes that are in the one with calcium chloride, then since your name is Shift Drink, I'm assuming you're doing this professionally and not just doing them for yourself, right? For a bar. So you have to assume that some people will be able to taste it. So you have to really keep the level of calcium chloride down. And the good news is it doesn't take much calcium chloride to reinforce the pectin that's already there. Right? So what it's really doing is preventing pectin breakdown. If you add the soak that I like to do is with calcium and pectin methylesterase, which is an enzyme that actually maraschinalizes them, makes them so that they're like bulletproof. Remember with a sour cherry that you want to get those things taken care of before they bruise, because they turn a really terrible color once they don't you hate that color?
Yeah, it's so gross.
Yeah, I don't know why, but they turn like a really gross color once they've been like destemmed and
brown.
Yeah, just why though? What's in them?
I don't know.
It's weird.
Yeah.
So anyway, I would also it's too bad it's too late. You can't run a test beforehand because now you already have all the product. But yeah, a little bit of calcium. I don't know the number off the top of my head though. Andrew Harrison. I have a question about freezing points for cocktails. Is there a formula for determining a cocktail's freezing point? I imagine the ABV and Brix play a large role in determining the final freezing point of a cocktail, but I've yet to find a formula or source online that explains it for me. I'm interested in doing some canned cocktails like Mike Capaferri mentioned in the episode y'all did with him. Thanks. Okay, so what you have to do, and again, going back to Goff, in Goff, there is a procedure for measuring. The way that you do it is you have to measure what's called the freezing curve. So you're not probably interested, maybe you are. Maybe you're interested in the point of first crystal, right? And so the point of first crystal is fairly easily calculated. I don't have the numbers on the top of my head, but you figure out how many moles of ethanol you have, how many moles of sugar, what kind of sugar it is, and you can calculate what the freezing point depression is and when the first crystals are. And I have a very complicated version of it at home on an Excel spreadsheet for me to generate my freezing curves, right? So then what you do is you take it to the first curve, and then you just keep recalculating how much water has been frozen out, and you recalculate the concentration. So you do an iterative process where you can figure out, and that's how they calculate freezing curves in the ice cream business. They're typically iterative processes. So you say, okay, if 50% of my water has been frozen, then what would the concentration of the liquid be? And now what then would be the freezing point of the first next crystal that would form at that freezing point? And so you calculate it on a percentage frozen basis. Now, alcohol is not linear, right? It's close enough to linear for you to be able to treat it relatively linearly. So, you're going to be a little wrong, but not like a lot wrong. And then sugar starts to get nonlinear once you have a lot of it and it's frozen down above, because you can freeze something. If something is like 10 bricks and it's 50% frozen, well, now it's 20 bricks. Right. So, it starts getting nonlinear when you freeze that much, but it's, I don't know, maybe Quinn will put a freaking calculator up or something. I can give him the incredibly long and incredibly mind-numbing polynomial that I use. Bruce traveled a lot last year to Quebec, Denmark, and Belgium.
Hey.
Wonder whether Bruce used your...
Hopefully.
If Bruce is smart, Bruce used your stuff.
Yeah.
So we decided on a modest domestic trip for the summer. We're coming to New York City for the first time in a few years and have a few questions. I'll be there the first week of July. Oof. New York in July.
This coming week is going to be brutal too.
You know what? Make sure your hotel has a good shower. Like that's the biggest tip. Make sure your hotel has a good shower. Get some nice shampoo. What farmers market should I make time for? And are any of them going to have Aunt Ruby's? No. It's too early. Maybe at the end of July they're going to start having them, but I'm pretty sure that's too early. And there's only one farmer. There's plenty of Aunt Ruby's, but the only one that worth going to, no offense to other people who grow them, is Stokes. And he only is there, Farmer Ron's only there on Saturdays. And you have to get there one thing to know about New York farmers markets is that, the one in Union Square specifically, the main one, is that chefs, honest to God, go there. And they all go early in the morning. And the good stuff is gone. So if you're like, oh, the farmer's market closes at 5. No. If you want the dregs, if you want to buy like dog jerky, not jerky made from dogs, jerky for your dogs, right? Then you can go at 5. You know what I mean? But if you want I want this herb, right? No.
Show up at like 9:30.
Yeah. I've biked over there even at like 10:30 and been like, tomatoes? And he's like, gone. You know what I mean? So I was like, Temperance Wine Bars on the list, along with Russ and Daughters, Cats, Thai Diner, Stretch Pizza, and Balthazar. What places are unmissable? I live in rural South Georgia, so access to high-quality ethnic foods is one of the main draws of any trip to the city. Go to Queens. Just spend a lot of time in Queens. Even just a neighborhood suggestion. Also, your bar is going to be open by then? Yes, probably. When? Yeah. Look, either it's open or I will have beaten my head to a bloody pulp and I won't be doing the show anyway. So best of luck with it. Thanks. What do you got? Suggestions?
FICO's for a sandwich, old school Italian American sandwich shop on Bleecker. It's been around for 120 years. Dame was really delicious. I'd recommend going to Minetta Tavern over Balthazar also. That's all I can think of right now.
Yeah, Wenrick wanted to know flour tortilla recipes are all over the place online. What do I use? I have a grinder and Sonoran wheat berries. You got to grind them extremely fine, or they won't puff. This is higher than anyone else uses, and they don't use butter, but I use about 20% butter, and I use around 75%, or even sometimes a little more because it's whole wheat. That's why I can do it. Between 75 and 80% hydration. You just need the hell out of it. Let it rest for a long time. It's going to take a lot of flour to dust to roll out, but those are things that are going to puff like a mamma jamma and be delicious. Phil Stan, I'll answer your question on soda siphons next time. Kevin Young wrote in from Noma about stock of Comté Danish. They make a Comté cheese stock. Conte-like, right? Wants to reuse the stuff when it's over. I have to do some more thinking on it, Kev. So the intention is to use the solids that are left over and then remake them into a halloumi. Wants to know whether he has to add fat and or stuff back to it or water. I don't really look. I don't know how much Here's what I want you to do, Kev, before I think about it more. Measure the actual moisture content. So they wring as much stuff of it out, but I bet you it's still relatively high moisture because it's holding a lot of moisture. What you do is take a chunk of it, weigh it, then put it into an oven at 250 Fahrenheit and just let it sit for hours until it bakes dry. You're not going to volatilize the fat at that temperature, and you're not going to volatilize the casein stuff. You're just going to determine how much water you can liberate. That's going to give you an idea of what the moisture content is, and standard Gruyere Comté is about 30%. Otherwise, if you want it to melt, you can obviously add some citrate back to it. Azu, I know we're done. Azu, I don't know that I should answer your question. I will answer online about how to drink a fifth of vodka between 5 people in 5 minutes. It seems like an irresponsible thing for me to encourage you doing, but maybe we'll talk about it next time. Cooking issues.